Important warning. What you're about to hear demands your full attention. The following account is a direct, unfiltered transcription of courtroom testimony from the federal trial of music mogul Diddy, reported by Inner City Press. As the judge called the next witness, an eerie silence cloaked the courtroom. Each breath felt suspended. All eyes turned toward the doors as a familiar figure entered. Usher Raymond, the Grammy-winning artist, not here to celebrate his chart-topping career or settle contractual disputes, but to unveil a truth he had buried for decades. No longer shielded by polished interviews or deflections, Usher stepped forward to testify about what really happened inside the shadowy empire of Diddy Homes. "That truth has been eating me alive," he said. His story began when, at 14, his mother told him he'd be moving to New York to live with Diddy, full of dreams, ambition, and a debut album already released. His mother believed that living with Diddy would fast-track his career, but neither of them could foresee the disturbing world he was about to enter. "I thought I was going to learn the secrets of fame," Usher stated, his voice tense. "But I witnessed things no teenager ever should." Upon arriving at Diddy's Midtown penthouse, he found a space flooded with excess. Champagne at breakfast, half-dressed strangers, and unconscious celebrities scattered like props in what Diddy called initiation camp. Initially, Usher thought it was a marketing gimmick, until he realized it meant total indulgence. The mentorship quickly spiraled into something darker. Diddy wasn't teaching him music. He was conditioning him into silence, into complicity. "This is how real men do it," Diddy told him. One night at 3 a.m., Usher awoke to mass individuals entering the apartment. Dim lights, flickering candles, soft music. It felt like a ritual. It wasn't just sex, he said. There was structure. There were cameras, lists, and no one was surprised. Ordered back to bed. He couldn't sleep. That moment, he claimed, forever changed how he saw Diddy. The next part of his testimony shifted to the silence. How no one, not his mother, not the label, not industry insiders, ever warned him. They all knew, he said. But Diddy's silent power controlled everything. If he didn't like you, your career stalled. If he did, your silence was part of the deal. Usher wasn't alone. Other young artists were lured in, promised fast fame, then gradually entangled in Diddy's inner world. Assistants, drivers, musicians. Everyone acted like it was normal. Then came the trip to the Caribbean when Usher was just 15. It was supposed to be a private retreat, he recalled. But there were no cameras, no press. And that's when I realized I wasn't there for music. Years later, he would understand the depth of that manipulation. After the trip, Diddy became increasingly controlling, always surrounding Usher with strangers, more parties, and more unspoken rules. If Usher pushed back, Diddy would remind him, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Remember who gave you this life." Locking eyes with Diddy in court, Usher concluded, "You didn't give me this life. You gave me nightmares." In perhaps the most shocking segment of his testimony, Usher described being handed a contract at age 16 with a confidentiality clause disguised as a standard NDA. "I didn't even understand half of it," he said. "My mom signed it. Label lawyers called it routine. But now, looking back, I know what it really was. A contract to bury the truth. The signature he was pressured to give bought his silence for years. Bound by a non-disclosure agreement. He wasn't allowed to speak about the parties, the guests, or the disturbing behaviors he had witnessed. This clause was later invoked in 2009, when he was preparing for a major interview and the questions turned personal. Before he could go through with it, Bad Boy Records' former legal team called with a chilling reminder. "We hope you're not planning to jeopardize your reputation." That interview never happened. But it wasn't just legal pressure. Her claimed he also received threats from people tied to Diddy's inner circle, some he hadn't heard from in years. "You think you've left that world, but it never really lets go of you," he said. "And if you step out of line, there are consequences, not just for your career, but for your safety." The courtroom froze when her lawyer presented a physical copy of the NDA. The judge accepted it as evidence, and included clauses about unauthorized audio and video reproduction, language that now took on a deeply sinister tone in light of the alleged secret video library Diddy kept. Hers voice cracked as he admitted, "This document made me feel crazy for years. Like everything I saw, everything I experienced wasn't real. because I wasn't allowed to say it out loud. Then he recounted a lesser-known incident from 1996, when he was only 17 and taken by Diddy to an exclusive party in a marble-floor Atlanta mansion, guarded by security and filled with models, celebrities, and mysterious men seemingly unrelated to the music business. Amidst the glitz, what stood out was a secret room. He recalled Diddy whispering to a security guard, who unlocked the door in the back of the house. There were masked people inside. That's all I'll say. I didn't know what I was looking at. Then, Her said something that shook the courtroom. I think that night changed me. I saw things I still can't explain. I don't know if it was legal, but I know it wasn't right. He held up photocopied pages from a journal he had started in 1998, originally meant for songwriting, which over time became a vault of personal memories and hidden observations. When asked if he'd ever shown it to anyone, he simply shook his head. I was too scared. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Asked why he was speaking now, he leaned into the microphone and said, because I've lived with it long enough. It's time the truth came out. Then he revealed an encounter he said he'd never shared, not even with his closest friends. In 1997, at 18, he was invited by Diddy to meet a powerful music investor in Miami who could fund his first world tour. I thought it was about business, he said. Diddy told him to dress well and be respectful. But when he entered the suite, he found 3 men in robes, expensive champagne, and silent young women in the background. One man, claiming to be from overseas, asked if he wanted to be remembered forever. He wasn't talking about music, Her explained. Diddy then left him alone with the men. I felt trapped. They didn't touch me, but one put a hand on my shoulder and said, you can stay or go, but you'll never get another invitation like this. Her left, and from that point forward, everything changed. He was abruptly pulled from a tour opportunity, and a high-profile producer walked away from working with him. No one said it was because I walked out of that room. But after that night, doors that had always been open began to close. He also testified that, a few weeks later, Diddy showed him a disturbing clip recorded on a handheld camera. He laughed, Her recalled. It was another young artist doing something I know he wouldn't have agreed to unless someone made him. When asked if Diddy ever directly threatened him, Her paused. He didn't have to. The people around him did. He didn't use words. They used silence and exile. That was the moment Her realized that in this world, fame wasn't about talent. It was about submission. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly. Cameras focused on Her's face as his voice grew personal. This is the hardest part, because it's no longer just about me. He spoke about Justin Bieber, whom he mentored during the pop star's early days. At first, everything was positive. I wanted to be the big brother. I never had. But then Diddy stepped in. He started inviting Bieber to parties, calling them initiation camp, the same phrase he had used with Her years earlier. He was just 15, but Diddy treated him like a grown man. One night in 2011, Her received a call from Bieber. He didn't say anything at first. I just heard his breathing shakily. He had whispered, I want to go home. That's what Justin Bieber said on the phone one night. According to Her, Usher's team tried to locate him, but Bieber went dark for several days. When they finally met again, Bieber couldn't even look him in the eyes. I'm fine now, he said, but Her knew that wasn't true. That moment triggered Her to confront Diddy directly, asking him the question he'd been holding in for years. What you doing to these kids? And Diddy's chilling response? The same thing they did to me. That's how it works. That was the last real conversation Her ever had with him. From then on, he distanced himself. He didn't want his name associated with what he now saw too clearly. But after watching what happened to Justin, silence was no longer an option. For the first time, Her revealed that in 2018, he received a call from an unknown number and a voice warned, tell him to keep his mouth shut, or we'll shut it for him. When asked in court who he thought made the threat, Her turned to the defense table and said, I think you know. The breaking point came during a night no one had spoken of until now. A private party in a secluded Hollywood Hills estate in 2002. Her had been invited under the pretense of meeting a European producer, but there was no producer, no business setting, just dim lighting, security on every corner, an atmosphere heavy with secrecy. Phones were confiscated at the entrance, and guests were given intense NDAs, far more aggressive than any standard industry contract he had seen. Something felt off, he testified. There were people there who weren't artists or execs. They were just watchers. He recognized some famous faces, people who'd never publicly been linked to Diddy, and while he refused to name names, he hinted more would come forward if the trial continued. The most haunting part came when he tried to leave the party, and was stopped by a man he didn't know. He was taken into a side room where Diddy sat, and from there, everything changed. Hur then shifted his testimony to business dealings, revealing internal emails and draft contracts that showed how, as a teenager, he signed a development deal locking him into 5 albums and giving away rights to his masters until age 35. I didn't know what I was signing. I just wanted to sing. He described how other bad boy artists have been trapped in similar contracts, naming Carl Thomas, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack. Diddy, he claimed, had a pattern. Lure young talent with promises of mentorship, then discard them once they stopped obeying. He recalled receiving a spreadsheet from a private accountant showing he had lost out on over $4.3 million in royalties. Court records reveal many artists had accepted quiet settlements. Some just regained the right to use their name or perform their own songs. One of the most shocking revelations was that Hur had once tried to organize a secret meeting with other artists in 2011, but the meeting never happened. Someone had tipped off Diddy. Even worse, Hur claimed he once saw Diddy order the destruction of demo tapes and footage belonging to an artist who had threatened to speak out. The courtroom fell still. When asked why he had never come forward sooner, Hur gave a haunting response. I thought if I stayed quiet, I could move on and just be grateful. But you can't be grateful for a lie. He spoke of the guilt that had eaten at him for years, watching other young artists fall into the same traps, admitting that for a long time, he didn't know how to help them without destroying his own life. It's always about leverage, he said. And Diddy had all of it. The courtroom was struck silent once again when I read from a journal entry he had written the night he left Diddy's mentorship for good. I survived Puff Daddy, but did the child in me survive? I still don't know. As he ended his testimony, he addressed not just a judge, but the victims watching online, and the next generation of young artists idolizing the man on trial. This isn't just about one man, he said. It's about an entire system that told kids like me to shut up, fall in line, and never question the hand that feeds us. But I'm here now, and I'm not afraid anymore. Not for me, because I already lived through it. I'm doing this to the ones who didn't. And at that moment, what had begun as a federal trial for racketeering and trafficking transformed into something far bigger, a reckoning with decades of silence in the music industry.